service which provides support and advice on citizens' rights across the European Union. Mr. Valcke, thank you for being with us on BBC News. Let me ask you before we talk about the detail of what Theresa May is calling for, what are the situations that people most frequently come to you for help with?
Well, we've had quite a number of people who have contacted us following refusal to recognise their permanent residence in the UK. Or we also have people who have contacted the Home Office, explained their situation over the phone, and have been informed that there's no point in applying for permanent residence because their application is likely to be denied. We've had, for example, a lot of people contact us because they've had their applications refused because the Home Office does not consider that reliance on the NHS meets the conditions of European law as regards the need to hold what is called comprehensive sickness insurance. So even though, as a matter of UK law, EU nationals have a right to access NHS treatment in the UK, the Home Office does not consider that this meets the requirements of the current rules. So the UK is unfortunately engaging in very restrictive interpretation of the rules at present, and that's what's leading people to contact us.
On that particular question, it was interesting that it's one of the points that the Prime Minister's statement picked up, and she says that for those who are given settled status, which will be anyone who has been resident for 5 years can get that, the Home Office will no longer require evidence that EU citizens who weren't working, because obviously people, if they lose their job in that time or subsequently lose their job, held comprehensive sickness insurance. So they do seem to have responded to that concern.
Yes, that is quite a welcome development. However, if you look at the actual details of today's proposal, it does say that the government proposes to align the conditions for recognition of settled status on the existing conditions to acquire permanent residence. So that statement is welcome, but of course we need to see the detail to see how.
Given that this is an area very much that you specialise in, how does this proposal from Britain compare with the counter-proposal, if you like, although it came first, to be fair, this is a counter-proposal to it, of the European Union?
Well, it's completely different. The UK is basically saying that they will create a new status under UK immigration law for EU citizens who are currently in the UK. The EU, on the other hand, was proposing that EU citizens in the UK and UK citizens in other member states would continue to benefit from the rights they currently have. So that's quite a different approach because, for example, if we were to proceed on the basis, for example, that UK citizens would continue to benefit from free movement rights, it means that potentially they could go and work or live in another member state and would not be stuck in the member state that they find themselves in on Brexit Day. So there's quite a lot of differences.
Do you think, though, that there is potential here for a compromise to be found? Because it does seem quite genuinely that those within the European Union who are steering negotiations and those in the UK government who are doing the same really do want to resolve this one, because nobody wants a situation where their citizens are being kicked out of what is supposed to be a friendly country or countries.
Indeed, I believe that you're quite right in suggesting that negotiators on both sides wish to avoid a situation where, following Brexit, we start seeing mass deportations of European citizens from the UK and vice versa, UK citizens being deported from the EU. So I do believe that they wish to find common ground. But of course, it's much more difficult to find common ground when you are starting from two extreme opposite points of view. Whereas the EU is saying we keep acquired rights, what the current rights which are currently in place, the UK is saying we're going to create new rights. And the problem with the UK's approach is that there's nothing in that document to suggest how they would secure reciprocal rights for UK nationals in other EU member states. Because if the UK's point of view is that similar conditions should be negotiated on a reciprocal basis, that potentially involves an agreement with 27 different immigration laws across the EU. Because although many members of the EU form part of the Schengen rules, of the Schengen area, the Schengen rules do not completely harmonize or impose the same set of rules for those countries that participate. So the Schengen rules work alongside national immigration law. So in taking the point of view that reciprocal settled status should be guaranteed for UK nationals, that's going to create all sorts of problems in terms of the details of how such a settled status could be incorporated into the withdrawal agreement. A much simpler solution would be to keep acquired rights and work on the assumption that the same rights would continue to apply to EU citizens in the UK and UK nationals in the EU. That would be a much simpler and fairer and more generous offer than is currently on the table.
Who knows? Somebody might suggest that in the negotiations. Anthony Valcke, legal consultant with the European Citizens Action Service. I should just clarify, is that it's an organisation sort of funded by the EU or that helps to support the work you do?
It's an NGO that's based in Brussels. Yes, we get funding from the EU, just like many other NGOs in the UK.
But you're not an EU organisation, but you're a non-government body.
We are completely independent of the EU institutions, indeed.
Anthony Valcke, thanks for clarifying that. Anthony Valcke there from the European Citizen Action Service. Right.